right where we are, coming to you from Palm Springs, California. So our message for today is titled, Does God Love You? Does God love you? I came across an article this week written by one of the megachurch pastors that said what people want to know is God loves them. They want to know that God loves them and God forgives them. And in so many words, then they can go on with their lives, he tells us. My initial response was, forgive them for what? Are there that many people who think they need to be forgiven for something that they fill the pews of megachurches across the country? And to the question as to whether God loves them or not, it is simple enough to know, do you love yourself? Do you love yourself? If you do, then God loves you too. If people go around thinking that they are a bad person or a person who does bad things, then they need to clear up their consciousness by making amends to the people and things they can and change their ways, and in this they will find forgiveness. There is no God that can forgive us, as only we can give up those things that create a negative idea about ourselves in our mind. I'm going to go over this again because this is very important for us to understand this. Because this pastor was well known. I'm not going to mention his name. And he's got a megachurch, and megachurches are churches that have over 2,000 people. He said that people want to know that God loves them and God forgives them, and then they can go on with their lives. That's why they go to church on Sunday, he said. The people want to know that God loves them and God forgives them. And so when we think about forgiveness, we know that forgive means to give up, to give up. So we know that only we can give up our negative thoughts, only we can give up our negative ideas, only we can give up those things that diminish our character to ourselves, that depreciate ourselves, by whatever words that we use to do that. So we know that forgiveness must come from within us. It must come within us. And the same thing about love. If we don't love ourselves, there's no God that's going to love us more than we love ourselves, because God is a God of law and love, but that law is a law of correspondence. And I teach that over and over and over again because so many people don't get it. This love and law of God that rules throughout the universe in which we live is not dependent on any religious affiliation or any faith practice whatsoever. It's a law and the rule of life universally for everyone, whether you're an atheist or whether you're a fundamentalist Christian believer, whatever it is that you are, Mormon, Catholic, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, whatever you may be. It's a law of correspondence. Whatever you believe, just as the Mastermind Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. It's not done unto God, and God doesn't do it unto you. It's done unto you as you believe, as you think, as you speak, as you do. And God, through law and love, corresponds to us and gives us back exactly what we give to ourselves through our words, our thoughts, the ideas, our beliefs, whatever it is that's going on in our consciousness. Now, I have often seen the bumper sticker, Christians are perfect, but Christians aren't perfect, just forgiven. Christians aren't perfect, just forgiven. It's the bumper sticker. I see it a lot. Usually it's older people that have it on their cars. And it always makes me laugh, but a little sad as well, for people to think that it takes someone outside of their own consciousness, for example, God or Jesus or whomever, to forgive us is foolishness. We are in the image of God. God is not in the image of mankind. We are spirit, we are life, we are intelligence. That's what God is. We have the intelligence to know when we need to correct something in our lives, and all that is necessary is the choice to do so and the conviction to see it through until old negative habits are displaced by a renewed enlightenment, The other thing I have noticed that has increased tremendously over the past few years are the number of Christians who state that they are being crucified or persecuted. Now, they're not being persecuted. They don't refer to Saudi Arabia or Iran or Muslim-dominated countries, but here in the United States. And few of these people take the time to stop and realize that the only religion that has national recognition of their holy days in America is Christianity. Every non-security government agency shuts down on Christmas, no matter what day it falls on, as do all businesses. The stock exchanges are closed on Good Friday. No other religion is given the same recognition in the United States. And this isn't based on history, as the first settlers in America did not celebrate Christmas. It is through religious political power. Christians should be glad that we have a Santa Claus and an Easter bunny hiding Easter eggs, because without these, I am certain that Christmas and Easter would have faded tremendously in popularity decades ago. And the political power of the religious organizations would have diminished tremendously along with it. And we're going to think of it, this is the reality of life. You know, people don't celebrate things that they don't enjoy. So if we just had this solemn thing at Christmas, we didn't give gifts, and we didn't put up a Christmas tree, and we didn't have a Santa Claus, and we didn't have all the jovial things like the mistletoe, etc., people would have it would have been just another day. Same thing for Good Friday, same thing for Easter. Without the Easter bunny and the Easter egg hunts and all that, there were more children at this Easter egg hunt in Palm Springs that I'm sure were in the churches on Sunday. As a matter of fact, I know several who were at the Easter egg hunt that didn't bother to go to church on Easter. And that's the way life works, because God is everywhere we are, and God is the Spirit within us, and that Spirit is always seeking more joy, more joy. Not to go around thinking that we should be forgiven for something, or that something's wrong with us, or that we have to run here or run there to be forgiven for something, or get on our knees and beg some God far out there in the sky somewhere, or a Jesus or a Buddha or a Krishna for our forgiveness, but to realize within ourselves that we are worthy, because we are created in the image and the likeness of God. And Jesus said the Father is Spirit, and we must worship Him in spirit and in truth. So we're Spirit. We're part of life. God is life. We are alive. We are part of life. We are intelligence. We're part of the intelligence that created the universe and all things that we see. And when we remind ourselves of this and we take this into our consciousness as the truth about us, then things start to change for us. We can worship God in all things. We can worship God in an Easter egg hunt. We can worship God decorating the tree, because worshiping God is to love God, to love life. To love life is to love God. So if we take away all the joyful things, then Easter and Christmas would have faded tremendously in popularity decades ago. It's true. It's true. But for now, religion is still the main beat of the drum, and so people who really fail to evolve in their spiritual awareness continue to attract massive numbers of followers and wealth. Joel Osteen is a very likable guy and a sincere one, and to most people he is a cut above the typical evangelical type fundamentalist pastor who's always talking about hellfire and damnation and the do's and the don'ts. But even his messages are filled with the God out there somewhere theology. In this description of his message, it's all good, but you can go to his website and you can pay to listen to this message. It's written, are you going through a difficulty today and wondering if God is there? Life is full of things we don't like or understand. But God won't allow a difficulty unless He's going to somehow use it for our good. In this encouraging message, Joel is going to show you how to trust God in all things. You see, God can see the big picture for our lives. He promises in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to those who love the Lord. Not some things, but all things. That means the pain, the loss, when a dream doesn't work out, when a loved one betrays us, even in our darkest hour, God has a plan. You'll learn how to pray bold prayers and stay focused No man controls your destiny. God does. Now, this all sounds wonderful. I'm sure it sounds very wonderful to people who have that theology or in that faith-based Joel Osteen theology, whatever, or whoever his followers are. But it's not altogether true. It's comforting to some people. It's a nice sentiment. But the truth is we control our own destiny, and it would be a capricious God that would dominate us and take away our freedom of choice. There is no such God. Our difficulties are not of God's making, but our own momentary lapses of using our intelligence to not realize the consequences of what we say or do. Osteen is correct that life is full of things that we don't like or understand, but his mistake is in teaching that God allows or disallows something to happen in our experiences. An illustration of this would be that God is a puppet master and we are mere puppets. Everything that happens to us is based on our choosing, and what we believe, what we think, what we say, and what we do, all of these involve personal choice. Personal choice. Now, do we say that to be mean-spirited, to say, oh, you brought this on yourself? No, we don't. Of course not. Because we never know why something happens. We never know at what point in our life experience we believe something that would have a negative effect on us later in life. We don't know. So, yes, we're responsible in a way, but we're not the entire responsibility, because whatever we believe, whatever we're thinking, the ideas that come to our conscious mind sometimes are those ideas imposed upon us by the world in which we live, and that imposition of ideas and beliefs can sometimes overrule our intelligence, where we don't even see it as anything that bad, so we don't reject it. We don't say, this is not part of my life experience. This is not what I want. I reject it. I displace it with a better idea about who I am and what I'm about. For many people, what they think goes not further than the imposed ideas and beliefs they appropriate from others. And this is the truth. The truth for many people. And for many of these imposed ideas and beliefs, they come from our friends and religious affiliations. The New York Times has an article titled, Friendship's Dark Side. Friendship's Dark Side, We Need a Common Enemy. It was written and researched by Natalie Angier. And here's an excerpt from the article. As researchers who explore the deep nature of friendship admit the bond can have its thorns, bruise spots, and pesticide traces. Take the new evidence that people choose friends who resemble themselves, right down to the moment-to-moment pattern of blood flow in the brain. The tendency toward homophily, toward flocking together with birds of your own inner and outer feather, gives rise to a harmonious sense of belonging and shared purpose. To ease laughter and volumes of subtext mutually, wordlessly, joyfully understood. But homophily, this is Homophily, researchers said, is also the basis of tribalism, xenophobia, and racism. The urge to otherize those who differ from you and your beloved friends in one or more ways. Now, I thought this was an interesting article because it reminds me of another article I read several weeks ago regarding a poll of people who attend church, and the number one reason they said they attended church was to socialize with like-minded people. It wasn't for the love of God or to worship God, although that was the second most popular response, to worship God, but to be around people like them. It reminded me of when I visited my family in Missouri, and my mother and I went to a Christian church, fairly large for a small town like Mexico, Missouri, and there were no people of color in the church audience. The next Sunday, I went to a Baptist church with a black congregation and was asked to speak at the podium, as at the time I was in ministerial training with Dr. O.C. Smith in Los Angeles, and the pastor of the church was so impressed by this that he wanted me to speak. It took only a minute or two for the audience to respond to my words, and it was one of the best times of my life. I was so impressed that the pastor was willing to let someone who he knew was different speak to his congregation. But this is not the norm in most churches. This is not the norm in most churches. And that's why it's interesting that we can find ourselves believing so many things that negatively impact our lives. So many things about health, so many things about success, even things about wealth. There's so many people that are offended by wealth. And a lot of people will say they don't like people who are rich because rich people are arrogant, they'll say. Or rich people want to use their money to take power over other people. But I think the root of that is not that rich people are something or rich people are something else. There's a resentment. There's a resentment. But that resentment is on the subjective side of their life, of their mind, I should say. And so they don't consciously become aware of it. But that resentment will hold them to lack of prosperity. People have the mindset that other people have the money and I don't. But as long as they think and believe that other people have the money and I don't, well, other people have the money and they don't. It's that simple. Remember, we go back to those words of the mastermind Jesus. It's done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. But we can clear our consciousness of all of this. Think about these words from the great Dr. Ernest Holmes, the American mystic. It says, letting go of all previous mistakes, I know that today I am free and unhindered. I feel the operation of divine love and universal law in my affairs. I know that everything I am doing is governed by love and controlled through law. I am conscious that I am one with all people in love, in essence, and in joy. I believe the law of good will bring every good and perfect thing to me and will bless everyone I contact. And we must know that this law of good is operating upon our ideas, whatever the idea is for us. Do we need more money? We can give ourselves an idea that more money is coming to us. And whatever it is that we need to do, that guidance to do it will come to us so that we can have more money. Do we need more health? Then realize that health can be restored. That we must know that the way for our health to be restored is to think and see ourselves healthy and know that we'll be guided to whatever it is that's necessary for us to be healthy. And sometimes that means we have to go to a doctor or a surgeon or take a certain kind of medication or whatever. But it's all things working to our good if we let it, Remember, we all have momentary lapses where we don't allow ourselves to realize just how wonderful we are, just how intelligent we are, just how beautiful life is, and just how much strength we have to move through this life with a greater ease and a greater grace than ever before. And Dr. Robert Bitzer had an affirmation that was taped on his podium, and the tape was so strong, even years after Dr. Bitzer was gone, that affirmation was still there. And I remember one time going up to the podium when the church was vacant and reading it. And I still have that affirmation myself, that I can look at it and I can see it. I can tell you what it is right now. It's, there is a power within you. But we should say there is a power within me that can lift my life to its highest level. Let's say that together. There is a power within me that can lift my life to its highest level. It can change illness into health. It can bring peace amidst turmoil. It can bring success out of failure and victory out of defeat. It can bring companionship and happiness out of loneliness. It responds to me. For this is the power that dwells within me. And so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. Remember, we are in the image, the likeness of God. God's intelligence, God's spirit, God life. God is life. We are alive. We are part of life. We are a part of the Spirit. This is the Spirit that goes through this life and moves onward when we leave this life expression into a new life. We transition into new life because our spirit, which is of God, is eternal. We can let ourselves be brainwashed in believing that that's not true. Because sometimes we let the ideas of people around us impose their beliefs on us, whether they're true or false. We control our own destiny. We must remember that. God is not good if God is a capricious God, and God, of course, is good because God is the creator. God is the source of all things, all intelligence, all spirit, all power. But we have to allow ourselves to enter into a different thought process sometimes, just like that pastor of that black congregation in Mexico, Missouri, who let me get up and speak. It was very risky because we weren't of the same theology. He and Dr. O.C. Smith, who was my ministerial teacher and my mentor, they were not of the same theology, not at all. But he let me do it, even though he knew that I would be different. He was not afraid. So this wanting to be around people who look like us and think like us has been true throughout history. In primitive times, this created tribal patterns. Artists realized this when they began to create paintings of religious figures like Jesus and Moses and other biblical persons. The same is true of those who created paintings of Buddha and Krishna and others. This attracted those who maintained this tribal consciousness. Megachurches are a reflection of this tribal consciousness and have been very successful in attracting those who desire being surrounded by others like them. This has caused some Western Christians to see Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes. Now, at some level, they know this is not true, but perception is not always based on reality. Not always based on reality. A friend of mine sent me a video this week that provides like a humorous but truthful illustration of this. It's called There Is No White Jesus. You can go to youtube.com. Right after you search for Rev Bates, A Way to a Wonderful Life, you can search for There Is No White Jesus, and you'll find the video. But we know that Jesus was the greatest teacher that walked on planet Earth. He was great because he studied the teachings of people before him. You go back to the book of Proverbs and Psalms and the Bible. You go back to the writings of Isaiah, the words of Isaiah. You'll find there's no more powerful words than those that you'll find anywhere. Go to the four Gospels and read some of those statements of Jesus, and you take out the stuff that is based on culture and the things that you know that he probably wouldn't have said because he didn't believe in the big guy in the sky God. That wasn't his God. Father, he said. Father, he used the term, but Father is spirit. The Father is spirit. Not a guy, the big guy in the sky that looks like a bigger version of us. So finally, we answer the question, does God love you? Yes. To the degree that we love ourselves, God loves us. God loves us to the degree that we love ourselves. Does God forgive us? Yes. God forgives us to the degree that we forgive ourselves and give up all those negative things that we think about others, that we think about ourselves, and the negative things that we do, and remembering of the negative things that we've done, and clear our consciousness and know that today is the day that we renew our mind, refresh our spirit, start moving forward with greater things to experience for each and every one of us. We must think. We must think. Nothing is real to us unless we make it real. Nothing can touch us unless we let it touch us. So we must refuse to have our feelings hurt. We must refuse to receive anyone's condemnation. And in the independence of our own mentality, we must believe and feel that we are wonderful. And this is not conceit, it is the truth. In the scriptures we read, awake thou that sleepest, and rise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. And what is light? Light is intelligence. Light is intelligence. So God loves us intelligently, and we love God intelligently. And so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. So once again, I want to thank you for being with me today. It's been my great pleasure to have you.